Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100% You, a podcast which is all about discovering who you're truly meant to be and becoming the best version of yourself. I'm your host, Bari Barel, and I've been on the self development journey for the past 14 years and spiritual journey for the past 12 years. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the power of your words that you're using. It can be externally as you're speaking, and it can be internally in your own thoughts. How are words impacting our entire life, and why you need to start making sure you're using the right words, the right sentences in order to create the life that you want. This is episode number 26. So if it's your first episode, nice to meet you. And there's lots of content you can watch and get to know this podcast better. So let's start with today's episode. I know that many people talk about the power of your words, and it's not such a new concept, but I feel like in this podcast, we must have at least one episode that talks about this specific topic because I feel like I need to give you the whole picture of how your words shape your reality. Because once you truly understand the depth of it, there's no way you're gonna keep talking the way you are right now if you want to change your life. If something is not shifting in your life, you must take responsibility and understand that it is your own fault and you are the only one who can change it. And the power of our words is basically how we create our reality. Now, each and every word basically holds a frequency. Each and every word holds a frequency, vibration that represent something in your life. But before we start and dive deep, I just want to give you a short little story about how I started noticing my words, how I speak, because it was one of the greatest pivotal times I had in my entire life. It was at the beginning of my spiritual journey, my self-development journey, whatever, because I was very, very young and I did it even without noticing what I'm doing. So I was around 13, I think, when I discovered this concept. Back then, it was the first time that I ever read the book The Secret by Rhonda Biran, which is basically, if you don't know what book is it, because it's like one of the core basic books of manifestation. Basically, The Secret says that what you think about, what you talk about, everything creates your reality and you can change it and you are the creator of your own reality. Now, once I read her book, I remember I was 13. And I remember once I read this book, I was going through, my parents got divorced a year, 2 years before that. I was having stuff at school. And in general, if you remember, I talked about it here a lot. I felt at that age that I need to change completely. I felt like I'm not who I am. I felt like the girl that I was, something shifted during those years and I did not like the version that I became. I did not like the people I was talking to. I just in general I hated myself, and not because like I didn't love myself, but because I hated who I become and I wanted to change it. And one of the first things I realized is the way I talk to myself is insanely negative. And today we're going to talk about not only negativity talking, but in more depth about each and every word, about your thinking, about everything about your interact with people. So the first concept that I was introduced to is the way we talk. If you want to tap to the highest version of yourself and attract and manifest things in your life, you must first of all to change your language. When you speak negative language, I don't deserve this, I don't get to be loved, or anything that is negative words. This is like the whole core basic. You probably heard about this, but if not, so always good to know. When you say something negative, you immediate manifest this in your life. Now, for me, it took time to understand how this concept works because I remember in that book, they basically wrote like bunch of words you should never say. Don't, no, never, like different kind of words that hold negative emotion. So in that book, the example they used to give is, let's say you attract only toxic people. Okay, so instead of saying I don't want to date toxic people, the word don't that you have inside the sentence basically is erased, and instead you manifest toxic people. Now I remember, and it in everything, let's say I don't want to feel uncomfortable, so you will feel uncomfortable because you added the word don't. That's like the core concept that I used to learn back then when I was 13. Now, as I got older and advanced in those topics, I understood that it's not that the word itself is erased and it's not existing anymore. And I remember that I had many conversations throughout the years with friends that they also did not understand this concept. But the thing here is, it's not that the word disappears and you manifest things without the don't, without the no, without everything, the negative words. The thing is that once you put focus on something specifically, I don't want that, because you put energy there, this is what you manifest. This is what you attract in your life. So let's say, I don't want to feel ugly. I don't want to be the less one. I don't want to be the blah, blah, blah. You put energy, certain type of energy there toward that thing. And what happens is that you receive that. So it's not that the wording specifically of don't know. So I remember that because I was so afraid of this concept of like saying no in my mind or like don't. So I was like, let's do the opposite. And let's say like, I want to be wealthy. So instead of saying I want to be wealthy, I would say, I don't want to be wealthy. I don't want to be wealthy. I'm not wealthy. I'm blah, blah, blah. And it's wrong. It's wrong because you still put energy on something that is negative. So the whole thing of words that are like negative, no, don't, whatever, it's not that they don't exist at all. They do. You just need to use them smart. So let's say the first concept that you need to remember, whatever you want, focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. That's the first concept, the most basic one. And I don't want to touch more on that because I think it's pretty obvious. And I don't know, we're in 2026. I feel like everyone knows this already. The second thing is you need to understand what language you use. In today's world, it's really common to say words like, you're so stupid. Even if you're the most optimistic, the most smart person, everything is perfect with you, you can say to your friend, you're so stupid. Or those little words, or even in your own head, you can say about other people, you saw someone really stupid or someone acting in a really, I don't know, someone really ugly or anything that holds lower vibration. Once you also have those thoughts in your brain, your entire reality surrounds itself around it. And this is something that you will see in your life. Another thing is, I remember I heard in one of Kabbalah teachings a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, something that it was actually the first time I heard about this concept. But you know, people who say in English, you can say like a lot between sentences. Also in Hebrew, you can say ke'ilu, like the same thing, many, many times. And what she said, the teacher there, this is such a smart concept. Once you say like a lot, and it is part of your vocabulary, what happens is that many things in your life is like. It's not real, it's like what you want. And every little word that you even use, pay it close attention to it, because everything holds energy and words created in order to deliver something. So when you use a word, even in your own thoughts, it holds some kind of energy, it holds some kind of explanation, meaning, vibration. So pay close attention on what words you use in your own mind. So the easiest way to change your own life and to change your circumstances is start putting focus on how you speak, what language you use. And also, the language is the story you're telling yourself. So it's not, so first of all, as I said, there is the specific words you use, there is the vibration frequency that every word holds. And the third thing is the story you tell yourself with the language you use in your own mind. And this is the most powerful one. And this is why people are so into affirmations, into scripting, because our mind is basically wired in certain stories. We talked about it in previous episodes. If you haven't listened, I highly recommend listening to the episode, Is Your Past Stored in Your Cells? This is basically gives you the entire explanation of how your language is stored in your cells. You have memories that basically stored in your cells as vibrations. So basically every cell in our body holds memory that is stored, and unconsciously we're manifesting things in our life. If we pay attention, close attention to the language that we use, and you start every single day, notice what language you use, what stories you use inside your own mind, it will be easier to recognize patterns that you have, to recognize the story that you're living in. So let's say if the story that you have, affirmations you have in your own mind is that I always late, I always this, I always that. I'm sure you have these friends that they always say, I'm always late, or you say to another person, this is another thing that we'll talk in a second. I really try not to say as fact something to other people because it can affect them really strongly. And also, it creates my own reality. If I state that this person always late, I will attract situation in my life that in my life this person will always be late. And this person, without even noticing, will always be late. And this is like a whole scenario that you created in your own mind with your own story. And of course, if it's repeating, maybe you both have this story, but it's not a fact. This is a story that you created and you can change it. If you live in a big city, so you probably heard the sentence that it's really hard to find really good apartment in Tel Aviv. It's very common that people will tell you it's really hard to find great apartment, great price, great location, all the good apartments are taken. All of these sentences you will hear over and over again if you go to Tel Aviv. And I'm telling you, I had a few bets with my friend, and each and every time I told them I don't believe in this. Why? Because I never let this get inside my head. This is the story you're telling yourself. And of course, there's many people telling this story to themselves, and this is what they're experiencing. And every time that I was looking for apartment, each and every time, because I had different story of I'm attracting the most perfect apartment with the best price, with whatever, with this location, with that. Every single time I attracted what I wanted in such a short period because I had a different system, different language that I use in my own mind. It doesn't have to be your even belief system because even one sentence that you tell yourself can affect your life. And I know it sounds scary. Is every sentence affect my life? So, many people say, I remember I used to be very scared of this at the beginning when I just discovered the power of words. When I was 13, I remember I used to be so scared that I had such a negative talk inside my head that I was afraid to die because I was talking so bad about myself in my head, about the world, about everything, that it was really hard to change it from the core in a really in short period. So it took a time. It took a long time to change my entire brain, how I think and how I operate. So even if you still have negative thinking in your head, that's okay. Just remember it's a process because if you start to be conscious about it today and be aware of it today, you already made the first step. Because once you're aware of something, it is much easier to change it and change it faster. So don't be hard on yourself. It's okay if you still have negative thoughts, it's totally fine. But just remember that it's a process. It's a process. If you even change 1% of what you had yesterday, this is incredible improvement. So pay close attention to what sentences you have inside your own head. It can be, I never get accepted to things. I never this. I never get chosen. It's hard to get accepted to things. Pay attention to what words you're using and what reality you want to create because every negative language that you use in your own mind is basically just shooting at yourself. Like, this is your own mind. You can choose whatever you want to think in. So take it as a challenge to start noticing how you speak to yourself because this is basically what creates your entire reality. You know those people that when you look at them and you say, they're so lucky. They're so successful. And I can tell you about myself. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I just want to be super true. Many times I hear people say about me that I'm so lucky, I'm so successful. Of course, this will happen to me. Of course, I will get this opportunity. I'm always attracting good things. And this happens. I hear those sentences from people because I changed my entire mind and how I think. It's not that I just got lucky. It's my entire language in my head feels that I'm lucky. The sentences that I'm telling inside my head, my own head, each and every single day today, it's like automatically. But when I was much younger, I tried to change my entire brain of how I speak to myself. So instead of talking bad to myself and say that I never get accepted to things, because I used to have this language in my head, instead of saying that I'm not successful, instead of saying that I'm ignorant, instead of saying all those negative things that I did not want to have in my life, I started speaking to myself differently and saying, I am the luckiest girl in this world. And if you want, you can go on my Instagram and see that I have highlight of affirmations. This is affirmation I have for years. Each and every day I used to say to myself, I'm the luckiest girl in this world. I'm the luckiest woman on this planet. I am so happy everything happens for my best. And I used to say it for years until it became my reality and things start to shift in my life. And today, this is part of my belief system that I'm the luckiest woman on earth, that I am so successful, that I attract only good people, that I surround myself with good people, that, all this good affirmations that, and notice also when I speak, did it make something in you? When I say I am the luckiest person on earth, those kind of sentences increase your frequency, your vibration. And when you increase your vibration, your frequency, we also talked about this in the episode of how to align every decision with your highest self. When you are increasing your frequency, it is much easier to make the right decisions because you are in a higher frequency. You're not in a low negative frequency. And this is what will separate you from everyone else in this world. Another strong one is it's not possible for me. It not necessarily sound like a negative story, but it is. If you're saying to yourself about something, it is not possible for me, this is the reality you're creating. And you can say about everything, this is a fact in my life, but no, it's not a fact. It's something that you rewire your entire brain towards, and this is what you experience in your life. If you'll start to change your thoughts, the way you speak to yourself and the way you speak to others, about yourself and about others, you will start noticing a huge difference in your own life. And now, we talked a lot about our thoughts, but what happens when we speak about ourselves or in general speak with other people? So you can say maybe you feel uncomfortable changing your entire language. Maybe you change it in your own mind, but eventually with friends or with your family or with coworkers, you keep talking in the negative way. So it might help you that you have, certain type of language in your own mind, but the way you talk and interact with the world is kind of the stamp of how your entire world operates, because words, language is an energy exchanger. If I speak to you now, guys, and I say negative words, or I will gossip about other people. Gossiping is also language. It's how we express ourselves through language and exchange low vibration energy. And this is also a big part. When I was 13, I promised myself I stopped gossiping. And because I stopped gossiping, I was almost never around people who gossip. And I remember many times I discovered things in my high school only like a few years later, only because I tried to hold myself so strong with not being in those environments and not putting focus on even be interested in hearing gossip, because again, it's a negative exchange of energy. So everything that you do, that you speak, the interaction, everything is energy exchanger, and you always need to ask yourself, is it high vibration energy exchange or is it low vibration energy exchange? If the answer is low vibration energy exchange, if you want to become the highest version of yourself, this is not a place you want to be in, or this is not a language you want to use. Even if you're in a room with people who gossiping or talking bad about other people, and you have to be in this room, you not necessarily need to participate in the conversation, or you can shift the conversation to something else. And also, this is part of karma, I would say, because if you put energy, bad energy towards someone else or towards even yourself, you speak with a friend about yourself, bad stuff, or about this person, bad stuff. And when I said bad stuff can be as simple as saying, I am stupid, you are asshole. Those kind of words, the most simple ones, not even the whole story, just one word, it's lowering your vibration. And what's happened here, you send certain type of energy and you must receive this type of energy. So, and this is like part of karma. So you want to become the highest version of yourself, you need to create the environment that will give you the permission to be the highest version of yourself. You will not be there if you will talk bad about other people, about yourself, because your vessel will not big enough to hold all this light and all this good stuff that you want to have in your life. I hope you understood this concept, because I went a little bit deep and, mixed a few things, but I think it was really important to understand it. And from here, I want to continue to what I start talking about, the language you use towards other people. And again, it can be as simple as you sit in the university and you said about the teacher, she's so ugly, she's so fat, I don't know why she's doing this, she's so bad at teaching. Even if it's a fact, this is a bad energy that you basically send towards that person. You send this in the environment you are in, okay? Not even necessarily to this person, but you send this bad energy to the friend you were talking to. And also because it's about other person, and let's say it's also about other person, about your teacher. So it's not only in your own environment, in your own head, you also gave this energy to a different person, which you harm them. Maybe they don't want this negativity, but you send this negativity to them, because no matter, even if it's the smallest word that holds negative energy, you send this to a friend, and this is like a bad gift you give them. And also, as I said, you basically put this bad low vibration energy into your field. So maybe this teacher will feel it, maybe, I don't know, something else, but someone will feel this energy. And a great example for this, it's not even necessarily you have to be highly intuitive, but those moments when you go on the street or use transportation and there is one person that you just feel that you don't want to sit next to them. And it's not that because they don't look good or smell bad or whatever. It's just you feel that they have bad energy and you don't want to be around them. So it's exactly this. You create your own field, energetic field, and each and every word that you use amplifies the energy that you hold. The same thing as people who walk on the streets and every dog or cat that they see jumps on them. Okay, I can tell you that when I walk on the street, literally every dog that sees me is coming to me, start smelling me, jump on me. I had multiple times that dogs start jumping on me in the middle of the street without me even approaching them, only because I probably had very good energy. And the same thing, I could have bad energy and people will feel it and will not want to be next to me. So everything is energy and it all starts from the vibration you are in. Another thing that for me, a core concept that I feel like it's not talked enough. And as I said, I was introduced to this concept of the power of language when I was around 13. And even before that, in my own house, I remember that my mom for years used to tell me the same thing. No matter what you're doing, you're not finishing it. And when I learned the power of words, I remember I started crying each and every time she used to say it. And I used to scream at her and tell her, please stop telling me this. You don't understand how much power you have in your own words. I understand this is what you think, but don't tell it to me. For each and everything she used to tell me, I used to tell her, like, this is not things that I want to accomplish. I don't like this. I like to try things. It's not necessarily things that I would like to pursue. Please stop telling this to me. And I remember another thing she used to tell me on repeat every single day. I speak Russian also because I'm half Russian. And I used to study Russian when I was a kid for a few years, so I know how to speak, how to write, how to read, everything. I used to learn grammar also in Russian, literature, like everything, English and Russian, physics and Russian, everything. And I remember around age 12, 13, my mom started telling me nonstop. She used to tell me nonstop that I will lose my ability to speak Russian. And just so you understand, back then I used to speak fluently. I used to speak with her only Russian. And I stopped learning Russian. I did not go to teachers to learn Russian anymore. And she just started telling me, you will lose your Russian. And I was so mad at her because it was once I understood the power of your words. And when you hear something that person that you're next to every single day tells you, you're gonna lose your Russian. Lose your ability to speak Russian every single day for literally like a few months. I just knew that it's a matter of time that my Russian will become weak. And eventually it became weaker and I became less comfortable speaking Russian. I still understand everything fully, like I can go to Russian, I understand everything, but I became really insecure in speaking Russian. Very insecure. And this is something I'm really trying to work on really hard. And it's not that I don't know Russian, I know fluently, but I had this story that was engineered in my own mind, negative, low vibration that impact the way, and I can fully take responsibility on this and say, yes, I think this was something that had high impact on me because I was really young. I was 13 and I heard this for months, every single day for 10 times every single day. And eventually it was something that I was focusing on. It was really hard for me not to think about this. I didn't have the tools that I have now. I just want you to remember this small story that no matter that first you need to take responsibility on yourself and the way you speak to other people around you. I'm not even talking about people talking to you because eventually you can control, and we'll talk about it in a second, but I'm talking about the way you speak to other people. First, if your parents, the number one thing you need to notice is the way you speak to your children. Because if you're saying things that are negative, low vibration, or discouraging them from becoming the best version of themselves, they will inherit this thought. Because until age 12, everything they experience basically holds in their subconscious. So even if you told them one time, you cursed them, you said they're stupid, you said they're whatever, it will be part of the memory they hold in their cells. So this is something you must be very, very aware of. I'm still far from there, but I know that once I will have children, I don't know if I want to send them to regular school or whatever, because I don't know who, because I will really want to make sure they will get the best conditions to develop their mind in order to truly believe in themselves. So, if your parents, pay attention on how you speak to your kids. If you're in a relationship, this is also one of the key things. I don't understand how people can be in a relationship where their spouse talking to them in a really negative way. This is a person you love. This is a person that next to you each and every day. If you speak to that person negatively, this is an energy exchange and this will become part of the reality. And it's especially important when we talk about couples because eventually couple, it's different than friendships, it's different than parenting and relationship with your family because you have also the physical effect here that you merge between you two. And it's not only you have this exchange of energy of how you speak to each other, you basically sleep together, you stay in the same bed together, you have this physical attraction and you exchange a lot of energy. In spirituality, eventually, when two people get married or two people get together for a lifetime, eventually they merge themselves together at some level. So when you speak towards person that you're dating, person that you're married to, in a negative way, not only you're damaging them, but you're damaging yourself too, because again, it's an energy exchanger. And each and every word, each and every story that you tell them is basically interacting with their energetic field. And you have a huge power on them. That's why, especially for men, successful men, there's always this saying of you need to find a good woman. You need to find a woman that will lead you. Or like with every successful man, there's always a woman behind him. Why people say this? Because there's a huge difference between, there's no difference. We can talk also about successful women, but I'll say about successful men for a second because it's like the most common thing that we hear. So let's say there's a man that is really highly ambitious and he might have a woman spouse next to him that she's not encouraging him to be the best he can. Maybe she assaults him sometimes. Maybe she is doing a lot of drama in the house. But on the other hand, he can have a woman that is always motivating him, always doing him pep talks of you can do this, I trust you, I support you, I this, I that. And again, the same thing can be woman and the man do it for the woman. You're the best, you're so beautiful, you're this, it's the same. It was just the example I gave. So there will be huge difference in those two different relationships. A man with a woman who is assaulting him, you're so stupid, why are you doing this? Why are you that? Why are you this? And a man who has a woman that always supporting him, no matter if he fails, she will be there and she say, you can do this, stand, go do it again, I trust you. It's a completely different energy. So the way you speak, the way even you think in your own mind, it can be even if you think about your partner in a certain way in your own mind, this is energy, okay? He might not know that this energy comes from you, but this is an energy you send to the energetic field you both hold. So this is something that eventually will impact you. The way you think, the way you talk. Thinking is also such a huge part here. If you think and hold thought that is negative about person you love, you affect him and you're damaging him. It's that simple. It's hard, I know, but it's that simple. So you need to make sure that your mind is pure. It will be hard, but you can get there. And you know, I hate when people say that it's not possible to have pure mind because it is possible. I'm not saying that I'm there. I'm still having sometimes negative thoughts, but 99.9 of my thoughts are good thoughts. And this is why for me it was easy to understand that I had patterns that was sabotaging me getting the life that I want, because sometimes we're not aware of things and thoughts and behaviors we hold in our own mind. But the things you are aware of and the things that you can be aware of, this is where you can change and start from there. And you will notice that your entire looks, everything will change completely based on the thoughts and the language that you hold. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is a shield. You can make yourself an energetic shield from other people, from everything. And this is also something that, again, when I was younger, I didn't know how to do this. I was so afraid of being around people that talk in a certain way. I remember I had a few years that I was literally every time talking to my parents, I was escaping. I did not want to be in the house. If they talk one word that was negative, I was like closing the door. I was running away from the house and I could not tell them, listen, I don't like that you speak negative words. You cannot tell it to your parents. So back then, I didn't know how to handle this. But today, first of all, I believe that you need to surround yourself with people that you really like the way they talk, the way they speak, the way they think. This is the first thing, because I don't know, for me at least, it's really hard to be today around people that's gossiping, that speak badly. And if I am in those situations, and it can happen, I literally just take my stuff, say that I want to go home and leave. It's that simple, because I don't want to be in those environments. Why should I damage my own energy in order to be with people that I understand at that moment that don't want to be around? So, first of all, you always have the choice of choosing what people you want to be around. The second thing is that you need to understand how to hold this, because eventually we are in this world and we need to understand how to operate and navigate through this world, also next to energies that not align with the highest purpose of ourself. I feel like this will be an entire different episode, but you need to also remember that how you speak to yourself. I will do another episode about this, about how to hold energetic shield. But for now, I will say that the thoughts that you have in your own mind also relevant to this type of things. If you believe in evil eye, you will have an evil eye. If you believe that you surround yourself with people with low vibration energy will impact you, that exactly what will happen in your life. You can decide any given moment and say, this energy does not affect me. And when you decide something, you will see that also your environment will be completely different and the energy around you will be completely different. Now, I do want to go back for a second because I said that everything eventually is energy exchanger. But the way I view it is that if I did my best and I didn't talk bad about other people, I did not think bad about other people, I want the best for them. If I'll be in an environment with people that talk and hold bad energy, and I try to be the purest I can be and not hold negative energy, I don't have to take actions and be participate in this situation, in this conversation. I can turn this into different conversation or give my point of view of like, you know, maybe this person you don't like this, but you don't like them, but this is something special about them. Like you will try to find things about that person, and some people may find it very annoying, but You still can be part of those conversations, those people, those environment, but not receive and absorb the negative energy. And the way to do it is by not sending negative vibration frequency into the environment. So this is a core thing too. I feel like this episode, I mixed a lot of things. I talked a lot. And I hope you still got a lot from it, because this is a core thing that I hold and really leads me in everything that I do. In the past years, in the past decade, it's been something that is like part of me. I don't even notice it because I am so aware of, I always try to become better. There's always setbacks. There's always times where you feel that you could improve. We're all humans, but at the same time, I hold myself accountable to be the best I can. When I understand this concept of the power of language, the power of words, the power of how I think and how I talk to myself, it really, really changed how I view things and how I act. And I hope it will also impact you too. If you like this episode, I would love to hear about this. Feel free to share it with a friend that would love to hear it too. If you're not subscribed to this channel, I also would love to see you here, and I'll see you next week. Bye.